Good morning. It is Tuesday morning. It's about 6:30. I'm getting ready to head out for morning sunlight, of course, and then get ready to go down to the gym and get a workout in. I also have a chiropractor and an IV appointment this morning, and I'm hoping to check in with my doctor today or with the clinic when I'm there to see if they've gotten my blood work yet or why we haven't gotten it yet, because it was supposed to be like 3 to 5 days after I got the blood draw, and it's been 2 weeks now. So want to check in on that. I know we were doing some like more specialty kind of tests that I think they have to send out to different labs, so it's possible that it's just taking longer because of that. But first things first, let's go get morning sunlight. Last night I was feeling very fatigued. I went to bed pretty early, but definitely got a good night's sleep and good readiness today. I have also been increasing my naltrexone dosage. So I take low dose naltrexone. I've talked about this before. And one little experiment I'm doing right now with my doctor is to gradually increase my dose to see if I get more benefit from it. So I'm wondering if maybe good sleep and kind of better recovery is something I'm noticing, because I have felt like, especially since I've been home from my trip, like my sleep has been good. And I've been even like a little bit surprised by how good my readiness and recovery has been. And I had just started increasing it like I think during my trip, so it's been a few days now. So keeping track of that, keeping some notes on this. We'll see if it's an actual trend or how it changes going forward, but could be an interesting piece of information. I have a Zoom meeting this afternoon in about an hour from now, but I've already been sitting at my desk at my computer for a while, and this meeting is going to be like an hour and a half that I'm going to have to sit here. But I also have a few other things I want to get done on my computer before that meeting starts. So because I have a little bit of time, I'm going to take my computer down to the gym, set up my little makeshift treadmill desk, get some steps in while I finish up a few things, and then won't feel like I've just been sitting here all day. There was actually a time where I considered getting one of those little walking pads, like the little teeny kind of mini treadmill things that you can put at like a standing desk or just anywhere really in your house or apartment. It's very small. You can usually fold them up and stash them away. Then you can walk on them and get steps in while you're working or watching TV or whatever. But then I realized that I could pretty easily set up my computer on the treadmills in the gym here. So I've just been doing that instead. But if you struggle to get steps in or feel like you are more productive when you're walking, if you're trying to get work done, those walking pads can be really helpful, a really convenient way to get some movement in throughout your day. Also, random side note. So I had my chiropractor appointment this morning, and even though I've experienced this many times before, it still kind of amazes me how much of a shift I can get after getting an adjustment, just like in terms of how my body feels overall. Yesterday and this morning before my adjustment, I was feeling really lethargic, like my whole body just felt kind of restricted and kind of like I was moving in slow motion. Like it just felt really heavy and uncomfortable and kind of foggy. And as soon as I got adjusted, it's like all of that just lifts and I get a big energy burst. I mean, relatively speaking for me, big energy burst, but I just feel it's almost like somebody's taken a 20-pound weighted vest off of me and I'm no longer like carrying this heavy thing around. And it's always just so fascinating to me to see how quickly that can happen. I mean, I assume there's both sort of a physical component, like just in terms of like fascia and muscle tension and all of that being relieved, but also I think there's like a neurological component, and I'm not sure if there's like a lot of real science on this or like studying chiropractic and neurology kind of thing. I haven't actually looked into it, but my understanding is kind of that getting adjusted, kind of keeping your spine in alignment, also helps with your nervous system being able to function, nerves being able to fire properly, just kind of like your brain being able to communicate to the rest of your body. And at least in my experience, I do feel like that has been a noticeable effect, and that's why I keep doing it, because it just really does help me feel better. So on that note, I'm going to head downstairs to the gym, get a few things checked off my list while I get some steps in before I have to hop on this meeting.
And now, it's like wind chill when they have heat index. Heat plus.
That's not a concern right now for a couple of soggy days. 4 inches of rainfall.
Good morning, it's Wednesday and I'm about to head over to a derma-facial appointment. Several weeks ago I talked about this. I had gotten just like a hydrating facial. I see a skincare person fairly regularly. I actually started seeing her shortly after my jaw surgery because my skin just was like, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have any idea where to start or what to try or why it was so irritated. And I basically found out that my skin was severely dehydrated and does tend to be pretty dehydrated. So the reason that I go see this person regularly and to get the dermafacials regularly, because I do not only have pretty dry skin that can get fairly dehydrated, but I also tend to have more like dead skin buildup, which sounds disgusting, it's kind of gross, but basically I think my skin just doesn't like turn over as well as it could, and then it's not able to actually absorb the moisturizers or the products that I'm using. So when I go see her, she does the dermaplaning, which is basically like gently exfoliating the dead skin off, and that way my skin is better able to actually absorb moisturizer and hold moisture and not be so dehydrated. Otherwise, what ends up happening is that it just continues to get more and more dehydrated over time and more buildup, and then it kind of just gets problematic from there. So I try to see her on a fairly regular schedule if I can, and I always look forward to these appointments because I feel like I walk away like a fresh, shiny baby face because the dermaplane also like gets all of the little fine hairs off of your face too, so you definitely end up feeling very fresh and glowy afterwards. So heading over to that appointment, I'll show you a little before and after. This is, I mean, basically this is before. I have nothing on my skin. I haven't even washed my face today since I'm going right to this appointment. And this lighting in here is not great, but maybe once I get there, I'll have better natural light. We'll do a little before and after comparison. It's about 6:45 p.m. I'm just waiting for my sauna to heat up. I've been using my sauna pretty much every night. I find it really helps me wind down at night and get a good night's sleep. I prefer to shower at night anyway, like right before I'm gonna go to bed. And so I definitely have to like rinse off after a sauna. It's just kind of a good combination, a good way to wind down before bed. But usually after I have dinner, before I get in the sauna, I will try to go for a short walk outside. Helps with digestion, helps with blood sugar response to a meal. And it's also another opportunity to get low level sunlight in my eyes, similar similar to doing morning sunlight. Getting evening sunlight has the same effect. So basically it's like when the sun is low in the sky, whether it's rising in the morning or setting in the evening, at that lower angle, the wavelengths of light that are going into your eyes, that's what signals to your cells what time it is, and that's what helps regulate circadian rhythm. So the same thing is not true like with midday sunlight. That's still really good for vitamin D and like hormone production, but basically I think it's between like the hours of like 10 and 4, you're not getting the same effects on your actual circadian rhythm and like cellular regulation. So anyway, try to get out for a walk in the evening, both for that evening sunlight, but also just for like post-meal digestion, especially at night before sleeping. I feel like that's really helpful too. All of this to say that today it's been raining all day and it's still pretty drizzly and wet outside. So another opportunity to pull out my little mini trampoline. I will also sometimes hop around on that before I get in the sauna, either on a day like today where maybe it's just not nice enough outside to go outside or go for a walk or whatever, but also if I get a little bit warm before I get in the sauna, I start sweating a lot faster in there, and then I don't have to spend so much time in there, which is kind of nice. If I get in there when I'm sort of cold, or just like if I've been sitting around, it just takes like extra time for me to get kind of warmed up and start to sweat, and I want to sweat. The whole point of getting in the sauna is to help with detoxification, to essentially sweat it out. So sometimes I will just jump on the little mini trampoline for a little bit before I get in the sauna. It also is really good for lymphatic drainage and can kind of aid that detoxification process. So I feel like that's another good combination. And it doesn't take very long. Like I'll just do a few minutes, or I'll kind of like do like a minute and then take a break and then do a minute, and just do that a couple of times until I feel like I'm a little bit warmed up. It's a good little substitute if walking is not an option. So I'm just gonna go hop on there for a few minutes and then hop in the sauna for my nightly sweat session. Whoa, sorry for the kind of creepy sauna lighting, but I was just thinking about a conversation I had with my skincare person today when I was in for my appointment, and we were talking about how we're both really morning people, and like we go to bed quite early and wake up early, and like we just really can't even fathom like being a night person, or even the idea of like trying to have energy or do anything that's kind of overstimulating at night just doesn't work for us. I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but like my wind down time starts pretty early. I'm usually getting in bed by 9 o'clock. Like I'm in bed by 9 o'clock, and then I'll just read for a little bit until I'm sleepy and go to sleep. But it's really like a couple of hours before that that I am really kind of keeping things quiet. I'm dimming the lights, like I'm preparing my body for sleep. And we were talking about even how like going to a restaurant at night for dinner in the evening can feel so overstimulating at the end of the day that it's just like really not a pleasant experience for us. Or maybe again, like for other people, if you can relate to this, whether that's just really not being like a night owl kind of person, or maybe being sort of more sensitive to that kind of thing. But it honestly was just kind of nice to hear that she was like this too, because sometimes I feel like, am I crazy like having this evening nighttime routine that starts really early that helps me get a good night's sleep, that I really feel like I kind of don't want to compromise, or like it's just really not, doesn't feel fun. Like the idea of leaving my house at night or going somewhere where there's bright lights and there's music and there's noise and there's just kind of, again, overstimulation. It just sounds kind of awful to me. And I don't know, I guess if that makes me weird, then that's fine. Maybe I make up for that by being up early in the morning and having those hours of my day kind of available to me when other people might not. And I'm definitely like, when I wake up in the morning early, I'm ready to go. Like I'm getting up and I'm getting going right away. So I guess I don't really know what my point is here, except to say that maybe you're like me and just like the thought of having a really stimulating environment later in the day is not, just doesn't feel great. Kind of is like dysregulating. For me, I really notice like if I do have to do something later in the evening, it just kind of, it feels like it really throws me off. I will not sleep as well. I will kind of get like this weird, it's not even like an energy burst. It's more like it's feeling like wired and tired, but then I can't wind down because I'm so not used to having that stimulation that late in the day, and then I'll really feel it the next day. So this is why I really like my sauna time at night. It's quiet, I can read in here, really the start of my wind down before bed, and then by the time I get out and take a shower, I am more than ready to go to sleep. But I think it also kind of highlights like, are you actually giving yourself a chance to get a good night's sleep by creating that space there before bed to wind down, or is it like you're going right from a very, very stimulating environment and then trying to just get in bed and turn it off and go to sleep? I think whether or not you're more of a night owl, more of a morning person, goes to bed early, we all need that time before bed, some kind of pre-bed routine or ritual that gives you the opportunity to get a good night's sleep, gives your body the opportunity to actually calm down, get into a parasympathetic state, and be prepared to go to bed and get good quality and restorative rest and sleep. Another rainy day, kind of a nice cozy day to be inside. So I've just been getting a bunch of work done on my computer for the last while, and I'm gonna take a little break to run a few errands. I need to go by the bookstore to pick up a few books that I ordered last time I was there, and then I need to stop and get a few groceries on my way home as well. This is one of those times where I'm really grateful to have a flexible schedule so I can kind of break up my day between maybe going to the gym and training clients or doing computer work, and then like now I've been sitting at my computer for a while. I can get up, go run a few quick errands, come back, have that little break to like reset my brain and body. But I think even if you don't have that same flexibility, if there are ways that you can sort of take breaks like that where you get up and move around and just like, especially if you're sitting at a computer doing a lot of looking at a screen, even just like getting up, taking a lap around, whether it's your house or an office or wherever you're working, it's really, really hard to sit and focus for very, very long stretches at a time. And I believe there's actually about like a 90-minute window where you can focus your brain and your mind, and then you really do need to take a break or switch to some other kind of task that uses your brain differently. So that's one thing that I do sort of try to do is like 90-minute block where I'm more focused, and then maybe taking a break, this going to run an errand or just getting up, moving around. Maybe I'm like doing a load of laundry or something like that, but not expecting myself to sit there for like hours and hours on end and expect my brain to be able to function well for that long. The little micro breaks throughout the day, I find this to be really helpful, especially if I can get moving in that time. Here is my grocery haul. I got some frozen fruit for smoothies, microgreens, which I've talked about before, very high in antioxidants and good for detoxification. So I try to eat like a handful of those every day. Got some sauerkraut, avocados, bone broth, another really good gut healing and high protein. So another thing that I try to consume most days. Some Japanese sweet potatoes, an apple cider vinegar, some salsa. If you haven't tried Japanese sweet potatoes, these things are the best. They are like dessert. I have told many people about these that are now obsessed with them. If you can find Japanese sweet potatoes, definitely give those a try. I got some Primal Kitchen ketchup and barbecue sauce. I really like this brand because it's unsweetened, or they sweeten them with dates and just like really good ingredients. Some ground venison, which I know sounds sort of weird, and I was definitely skeptical at first, but if I cook it up with a bunch of seasoning, I really can't tell the difference between that and ground beef. It's also a very nutrient-dense protein source, and it was on sale. So got a couple of those, some chicken sausages, gluten-free crackers, and some green tea. I was just cleaning out my freezer and I found this baggie of herbs that I froze a long time ago. I think I just had like some leftover herbs that were gonna go bad, so I stuck them in the freezer with the intention, obviously, to use them up at some point. So that's what I'm gonna do now, finally. And I think I'm just gonna put them in a blender with like some olive oil and garlic and basically make like an herb sauce. Very handy way to use up herbs if you ever like buy a huge bunch of, I think this was parsley. You know, it comes in like an enormous bunch, and there's no way, at least for me, there's no way I'm ever gonna use that much parsley or whatever before it's gonna go bad. So I will just like stick it in the freezer, and then either once I have enough of it stashed away, or when I finally get around to using it, I'll put it in the blender, add some olive oil, garlic, have a little bit of lime juice, and just make a sauce out of it that I can basically add to anything. So we'll see how this goes. Good morning. It is early on Monday morning. It's a little before 6:30. I'm actually in a little bit of a hurry this morning because I have a plumber coming to my house to fix my leaky kitchen sink. which has been dripping for a while, and then also the disposal stopped working. So somebody's scheduled to come like 8:30 this morning to look at it, and I would like to get my workout in beforehand. And I am quite sure I'm going to get all of my test results today. My doctor has them now. They've all come in, and she just needs to review them and then share them with me. So I'm going to see if I can get a hold of those today, because I really want to see what those results look like, even though obviously I'll need to talk to her to really like understand everything, but I'm just super curious. So fingers crossed I'll be able to look at those later today. But first want to get outside for a few minutes, get hydrated, and get down to the gym. It's also been raining a lot here, and it's very damp outside. I think it looks like the sun is finally coming out, but it's gonna be a little bit of a wet walk this morning. All right, it's a while later. The plumber has left. Unfortunately, it was one of those situations where, yes, there's a problem they need to fix, but they can't do it today because I have to order a bunch of replacement parts. I need to get replacement hose for my faucet, and then I also have to actually replace the entire disposal. Luckily, that was under warranty, so they're just sending me a new one. And then once everything comes in, the plumber will have to come back and actually install everything. So for now, I'm still gonna have to deal with a dripping faucet and no disposal, which is not that big of a deal. It will all get fixed. Just a little bit of a bummer when you have an appointment set up, they come out and they basically look at it for 2 seconds and are like, yeah, we need to replace all this stuff, so we'll see you in a couple weeks once you get all the parts in. Anyway, whatever. I haven't heard back from my doctor yet. I did send them a message asking if they might be able to upload all of my results just so that I can take a look at them, even if she hasn't had a chance to review everything yet. Usually she's pretty okay with that, like letting me see everything before we've had a chance to talk about it. So I have a therapy appointment I need to go to this afternoon, and then I'm hoping that by the time I get back, they will have gotten back to me and maybe uploaded those results. Okay, it's a few hours later, and I do indeed have all of my test results back. I've just kind of glanced through them once at this point, and it's a lot of information. There's a lot of results and a lot of interpretation. So I'm just gonna kind of share a broad overview right now, and then I do have an appointment with my doctor a week from today. We'll do more of a deep dive on what it all means. She'll be able to give me a lot more context. I'm obviously not a doctor. I don't really know how to interpret everything or the specifics of it, but I will share kind of the things that stand out, or some of my initial thoughts on what kind of stands out to me right now. So we did a bunch of blood tests, like hormone testing, complete metabolic panel, and a bunch of other things. And then I did an environmental toxins test, gut tests, and also it's a newer test that's for like the forever chemicals, the PFAS. So basically another kind of environmental toxin, but more specific. So let me show you what we got, just kind of give the broad overview. We'll get more detailed next week. Okay, so starting with the blood test, I'm hoping this will show up at least fairly clearly on camera. So these ones that are high here on the complete blood count testing, hematocrit, I don't really know what MCV or MCHC is. And these ones, I'm not sure if that has shown up previously on my other testing. I don't recall these being something that we've been like monitoring over time, or that have maybe shown up as high or low before, but those were the first ones that were marked on this test. And we have metabolic panel, that all looks pretty good. Lipid panel, so my cholesterol levels have been high for quite a while. Not this high though. I believe this is the highest I remember seeing it. And in the past, it hasn't been something that my doctor has been super concerned about because it was high, but it was holding pretty steady. And because cholesterol is really important for hormone production, it wasn't something where like she wanted me to be focused on doing anything that would lower it, because my hormones are already generally low. We didn't want to do anything that was going to potentially affect that even more. But I'm curious what she will think now that that number has crept up a little higher than it has been. That might be something that we talk about. As well as the LDL being high. Again, that one, I don't remember if previous numbers were the same or where that has been in the past, but it is higher than the reference range. Then we get to the thyroid. Some of this other stuff was pretty normal, and then thyroid low as expected, as always. The long time trend here. TSH and pre-T4 low. Also got, there's another one later on that comes up as well. Lipoprotein A, that's another one. That cardiovascular health measurement, that is definitely high. Don't love the look of that, but want to get my doctor's take on that as well. Vitamin D was good. I was happy to see see that. And then the IgE, this is another one that has been very high for quite a long time. And actually, I think this is a bit lower than it has been. I remember at one point, I think it was like over 900. The reference range is, the top range is like under 500. So that's still high. That's kind of an inflammatory marker. And that has been something that we've been tracking for quite a while to see if it continues to be very, very high. And that is kind of the end of the blood test results. My T3 thyroid number is like just barely in the reference range. So that is probably another thing that, from my doctor's point of view, would still be considered low, even though, again, it's not flagged on here as outside of reference range. Given my other thyroid numbers and stuff, not surprising. Okay, moving on to the gut test. There is a lot of information here, and the way it's presented is a little confusing to me. So I'm just gonna show you the page where it kind of summarizes everything, because I think it's easier to get an idea of what's going on. Okay, so this is a little crazy. It starts off by doing inflammatory markers. Those are all pretty good. I think there's one here that was close to the red range, but everything else is kind of in the green. Digestive insufficiency and malabsorption markers. We got one that was sort of higher. Gut metabolites look pretty good. A couple of them are low. Then we get into different gut bacteria. These are kind of all over the place. Like there's some that are red flags. There's a lot in the green. And this is where I'm like, I don't really know which ones of these are really important, which might be like, okay, it's a little low or a little high, not a big deal. And this is why I really appreciate having my doctor being able to have her interpret everything and help me figure out what is actually important, because there's just a lot of stuff here, as you will see. And then we get more red zones here, but I don't even know what half these things are, or really any of them. So overall on this, yeah, there's a lot of things that are out of range. How we deal with that or tackle it, I'm not sure. In the probiotic category, this actually looks pretty good. There's like one lactobacillus that is low, but everything else, that's a good sign. Also the pathogens, this was entirely in the green, so that's cool. And I think that's the end of the gut test. Definitely some things to ask my doctor about there or to talk about, but kind of beyond my scope to interpret at this point. Next we have the mycotoxins and environmental toxins test. This is where things get a little more interesting, if interesting is the right word. There is a lot of stuff showing up here. Red and yellow, and in the mycotoxins category, a bunch more things in the red zone. More in different environmental toxins here. Some green, some yellow. And again, with some of this, I'm like, I don't know necessarily where my exposure might be coming from with this stuff, or like how important each one of these things is, how out of range these numbers would be considered, or like how important it is to really target each one of these things. This might look really scary overall, but this is why I feel like I need to wait to talk to my doctor before I freak out about any of it, because it could be that there's like one thing I could do that would help with a lot of these categories. So even though it can feel really overwhelming, I'm not necessarily super worried about it yet, but I guess we'll see. Lastly, we have the PFAS chemical test. Again, there's a lot of things in the green, some things red, some things yellow. So like I said, it's a ton of information. It's overwhelming to me to look at it all and try to make any judgments about it. Before I talk to my doctor about it, I am not going to make any assumptions or worry too much about what this all means. Because like I said, sometimes it can be like, okay, you have all of these different categories that are showing up as problematic, but maybe they're all kind of related, or like focusing on one specific thing could help with many of these different issues. It's not necessarily like each one of these things is going to be its own specific issue that needs to be addressed separately. Most of the time, I would say it's all very interconnected, and we'll kind of go through it all and come up with some plan to focus on or target whatever feels most important. It is going to be most effective at managing a broader range of these things, rather than like maybe picking out one specific thing and being like, what would we do to eliminate that? Or what would we do to try to help with this? And this is where I do think it's really, really helpful to have a practitioner who is well versed in this kind of thing and really understands how interconnected it all is, or how these things play into each other, because it would be really easy to go down the rabbit hole of like picking one thing at a time and trying to, quote unquote, fix one thing at a time. But if there's like an underlying theme that comes up through all of this, then there might be a way to kind of focus more broadly on a specific area that could then be helpful for a bunch of these different categories. And the other question, like I said, is sort of how important or how maybe impactful is each one of these things? Like if there's a certain chemical that is really high or it's flagging it as being like way in the red zone, is that thing itself really that bad, or is it just something you test for because you want to know, but maybe it's not as detrimental as something else that is showing up maybe just in like the yellow category, but that we know is really potentially toxic or more harmful to the human body or something like that. So as much as I can look at this and feel a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit anxious about what this is all going to mean, I am just going to wait until I have a chance to talk to my doctor and get her take on it. And I know in the end we will come up with a plan, we will put some things in motion, and we'll be able to take action to move forward. And the other thing I'll just say is that sometimes this can actually be sort of validating to get these results back and feel like, well, at least there's some reasons for me having the symptoms that I'm having. In the past, when I've done some of these tests and maybe the numbers will come back and look fairly normal or nothing will really come up, and then that just feels sort of frustrating because it'll be like, well, I'm having all these symptoms, but we can't find anything that seems like is wrong or that we can actually focus on. So in a way, it's kind of nice to have these results come back a little more clearly problematic, I guess, because at least it makes sense that, okay, I've been having some gut symptoms, I've been having fatigue, obviously, or pain or inflammation or whatever, and then to know that actual test results back that up is actually kind of helpful. So I'll be meeting with my doctor a week from today, and that's when we'll really be able to dive into this and come up with a game plan. And I will definitely document as much of that as I can and keep you updated on what the plan is moving forward. Good morning, it is Wednesday. I'm about to head down to the gym to do a lower body workout today before I have a chiropractor appointment later this morning. And then actually yesterday I was in at my doctor's office for an IV infusion, and my doctor actually had a last minute opening today, this morning, for a virtual appointment. So they asked me if I wanted to move up my appointment that is scheduled for next Monday to today. And yeah, I want to go over all those test results ASAP, and luckily that worked for me today. So it will be virtual instead of in person, but that's fine. I would sort of rather have the chance earlier to go through all these test results and stuff and get moving on things than wait until Monday. So really looking forward to that this morning. Got to get to my workout and chiro appointment first, and then get to dive into all these lab tests with my doctor later this morning. All right, just finished my chiropractor appointment, and since I have a little bit of time before I need to get home for my doctor's appointment, I am going to make a stop at the donation center that is out this way. I've had a bag of clothes to donate sitting in the back of my car for like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks now, and I just haven't had a chance to drop it off. So I'm gonna run over there, drop the stuff off, and then head home to have my video call with my doctor and really get into these test results. Okay, we ended up covering a lot of stuff in this hour-long session, and this video is already getting fairly long. So for now, I'll just summarize and say there's definitely some weird stuff going on in these test results. We had a lot of things to discuss, and I will kick off the next video with a more detailed breakdown of everything we went over here, what my doctor's thoughts were, what she had to say, and what we decided on for next steps. So that will be in next week's video. If you have made it this far, thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you next week. Thank you.